El Stinkus and El Pinkus. I'm going to shit my pants.
Can we talk about Monster House? I watched that movie dozens of times as a child, and I think what drew me in about it is the concept of a living house. The house itself is a living creature. It's like that one SCP that takes the form of public transport buses and drives around picking up people only to knock them out, take them back to their nest, and then feed them to tiny versions of themselves. Okay, when described like that, it does kind of sound ridiculous, but that's just the nature of SCP. They're all kind of ridiculous. Conceptually, Monster House tickled my brain in such a way that hasn't ever been tickled before. That's a really way of saying that, but I digress. Actually, thinking about it again 20 years later brought me to the PS2 game of the very same name made by Artificial Mind and Movement. I played this as a child as well, but never got very far because my brain was too slow for QTEs. The story of Monster House, or at the very least the logistics of it, don't really matter to me. But for formality's sake, I'll pretend you have no idea what I'm talking about. The plot of the film in which this game is based follows the perspective of three teenagers as they investigate what's wrong with their neighbor, Old Man Nevercracker's house. At first, it was just DJ, our main character. He sensed something was wrong with the old man himself and decided since he lives across the street, he'll watch the house almost 24/7, like a normal child. Occasionally, he ropes his best friend Chowder into watching the house with him, but Chowder is a normal, functioning child who wants to do normal child things and not watch an old man every day. Okay, maybe normal, functioning child in reference to Chowder isn't accurate because he's a bit of a weirdo, but I love him. He's me. The third character enters the group when she's walking door to door selling Halloween candy. The boys gather that she's not from town, else she would know not to walk up to Nevercracker's house, based on the fact that he's the block's get off my lawn guy. The boys discover at this point that the house is in fact a living creature that eats people and rushes down to save her before she's eaten. They learn her name is Jenny, and together the three make plans to kill the house before Halloween. To do this, they steal drugs from a pharmacy, drug the house with cold medicine, and sneak in to douse the furnace with water. The concept of the house itself is what makes this game fascinating. It expands an aspect from the film that we never truly saw. In the film, right after the kids get eaten by the house in the cop car, they don't show much of the inside of the house and how the house might react to people being in it long term. Instead, the house was drugged by a lot of cold medicine, which is really fucking dumb, by the way, and is asleep for most of their time inside. Though in the game, because it's a movie game, they don't spend too much time trying to explain the film beat for beat. They just want the player playing the game, meaning that the cold medicine isn't a thing and the house isn't asleep. These kids are in a fully awake house trying to survive. Like pretty much every A2M game out there, Monster House is full of a bunch of really cool things conceptually. In a vacuum, they're all really cool, but the gameplay itself leaves much to be desired. It takes all of the horror franchises that I love already, like Alone in the Dark or the first Resident Evil games, and literally places the player in the belly of the beast. What are you meant to do when the physical structure that you're inside is trying to kill you? Not just these random enemies that exist, zombies or weird little polygonal creatures that I honestly still can't make out what they're supposed to be because it's so low poly. Oh my god, Alone in the Dark. It's genuinely a terrifying concept. Unfortunately, we're stuck with this question in a movie tie-in game, so they don't really flesh out these concepts very well. The game starts with the trio being swallowed by the house in the cop car with none of the build-up from the film. That's usually how these movie games tend to go, and lately I've been taking them as just that. There's something that a studio is told to make by a parent company because it's just another product, another toy to advertise. They weren't expected to be good, just something to release, which is why finding a movie game that's actually good is always a treat. I mean, this isn't one of them, really, but there are a few out there. I just love it in concept and would rather have a fully fleshed out game of this manner over what we got. The overall atmosphere of the house is very unsettling as we control one of the three main characters, DJ, Chowder, and Jenny. Each of them have their own water gun since they were planning to douse the furnace with them, but they're also able to destroy furniture. I don't question why or how that works beyond simple waterlogging, but I'm also not paid to know these things. As we venture into each room of the house, the furniture comes alive. Chairs, radiators, TVs, hell, even the floorboards themselves are walking at you. The water guns of each of the characters function differently. DJ's works as a semi-automatic that can be upgraded to a burst weapon and eventually basically just a fire hose. Jenny's works as a burst weapon that becomes automatic, kind of. It's more like it's like a burst fire that just shoots a ton in a row. I don't really know how to describe it, if I'm being honest with you. It's not like 3-round burst necessarily. It's just you press it and a bunch shoot out at once, and then eventually it stops. I genuinely, it's not 3-round burst. It's just burst. I'm rambling now. Chowder's got a shotgun. He's just got a shotgun. It's weird talking about water guns like they're actual guns. It feels like I've entered a whole new era of loser. I feel like there was some favoritism with these characters because we play as DJ and Jenny more than we play as Chowder. And as a Chowder fan, I feel like they massively misunderstood his character when they have him refer to himself as the chubby sidekick. We true Monster House connoisseurs understand that Chowder was the main character of the story of a boy and his ball. In all seriousness, though, they put Chowder through the ringer compared to DJ and Jenny. His arenas and areas are full of way more enemies than either of the other two. DJ and Jenny are basically having a goddamn picnic upstairs, while Chowder is in the basement fighting for his goddamn life. They sent the boy to Nam. They're sending fighter jets after the guy. The goal is the same as in the film. Find the furnace, douse it, and eventually blow up the place with dynamite. How the game decides which player we'll be playing as is just sequential. That might not even be the word that I'm looking for, but as you play the game, it just picks a character for you to play during that chapter. I think the game would have been better if the player had choice in the character they chose, and the game had a separate campaign for that character. In the beginning, the trio becomes separated, with DJ starting in the foyer, Jenny in the attic, and Chowder in the basement greenhouse. Each character could have had their own campaign as they solve certain puzzles and piece together the story of Nevercracker and his house, until the finale where they all meet up, run to the construction site. This would have extended the length of the game by at least 3 times its current length, which would have been a bit more welcome since the entire game can literally be beaten in less than 3 hours. They could have actually retold the story, or even added on to the story aspects that weren't present in the film. But of course, that's not how it works a lot of the time with these movie games. Just make the game, sell the product, you have 1 month. I don't want to seem like I'm just hating on A2M. I like a lot of what they have to make conceptually, but their only real success came after rebranding to BHVR and making Dead by Daylight. Mediocrity isn't a bad thing. If anything, I admire their consistency to mediocrity for the past 2 decades. That sounds really mean, now that I say it out loud, but it's the consistency. You make consistently interesting things that just aren't super fun to play, but are interesting to think about. The PS2 is full of mediocre games that are fun to boot up every so often just to see what they are. The Steam store is like 70% mediocrity, and that's being generous. Mediocre isn't bad. There's a reason why so many people love schlocky horror B-movies. They're fun to talk about. I feel like Monster House could have also been much more fun to talk about if it was longer than 3 hours, and had more content that wasn't just a lazy retelling of the film. That being said, there is something worth talking about within the game. In-game, as you destroy random furniture and try not to die, you collect a bunch of arcade tokens. This is what we need to access the real game in the main menu. Thou Art Dead, the arcade classic played by the man himself, Reginald Skolensky. Thou Art Dead is a Castlevania-inspired spoof created for the film and reimagined within the game itself. You go from left to right and kill things with an axe. Eventually we slay a dragon and rescue the princess, but of course, the princess is in another castle. The game then loops into NG+, with enemies being a bit harder. The sprites genuinely look pretty cool, and the gameplay loop itself is really damn fun. I have like an an additional hour of Thou Art Dead footage because I just wanted to keep playing that instead. The only reason I stopped was I had to go to work. It's genuinely fun. The only problem is that it's in a PS2 game that I don't really want to open in order to play more. Before I stop, I'm running out of shit to say. This game is unintentionally hilarious with its QTEs. Failing them reminds me of the Spider-Man 3 game Burning Building QTE, where Pete face plants into the ground and the building explodes. In Monster House, there are a few where the gang are running from the house in an alleyway, and failing it causes Jenny to be launched up into the stratosphere by a manhole for no fucking reason. It almost makes me want to replay the entire game just to fail all the QTEs to see what happens in each of them, but I really don't feel like going through another 3 hours of nothing just for that. If you're interested, you can instead. Or just look it up online. I'm sure someone's done that. There's one more aspect towards the end of the game that I really don't know where to fit into the rest of the script because the gameplay for it is so vastly different than everything else that it reminds me of like a PS1 construction fighting game where you just like control an excavator and then beat the shit out of other excavators. It's kind of the same thing, but you're clawing at the house with an excavator. Like, I don't really know what to say about it more than that, other than the fact that it's so different from everything else that you would have expected from this game so far. But that is a thing that you do. I hate to say that there was more effort put into Thou Art Dead than there was with Monster House. I know this was short, but that's what happens when the game is 3 hours long and there's really nothing to talk about other than the fact that it exists. Which really begs the question of why the fuck did I even make this video in the first place? Really good question, but I have a lot of movie games. I have too many movie games. And I really just kind of want to get through some of them every so often. And maybe they have something interesting in them, maybe they don't. I really watched Monster House a lot as a kid. And I played the PS2 game sometimes. My name is Bucks. Please like and subscribe and have yourselves a wonderful day.